Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. One, Madam Speaker, I must say that these amendments to the Constitution, in my view, is a unique moment for this country. A unique moment to reflect on this Constitution and amend those places, Madam Speaker, that we think would help in the cause of progressing what the founders of the Constitution and the people who brought about the 2010 Constitution had in mind. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I want to remind this House about the Okoa Kenya initiative. When we tried, then in court, to have an Okoa Kenya initiative, the Jubilee government made sure that they drew monsters, they drew rhinos and things in our books. We stalled. This parliament, and I was the vice chair of a select committee led by Kipchumba Murkomen, attempted a similar amendment. In fact, it is nearly on all fours with Okoa Kenya draft and this constitutional amendment. What was the end result? This side of the divide then said, you are perpetrating a CORD initiative. It's stalled. Madam Speaker, this is an opportunity for the Senate. This is an opportunity for the country. We have been unable, as our coalition, to get this popular initiative on course the way this one is on course. And the conditions of a popular initiative, Mr. Speaker, because I've heard people talk about this in derogatory terms. The Constitution talks about a promoter. It doesn't talk about a company. It doesn't talk about a political party. It doesn't talk about a minister. It doesn't say anything. It just says a promoter. And that promoter needs to collect 1 million signatures, period. Now, if you have a problem about 1 million signatures, go and complain. But you can't complain. The minute it's 1 million, it's a popular initiative, period. That's the end of the matter. So this is a popular initiative. If you read this report, we are found as such. And we are very good lawyers in that committee. Number two, Madam Speaker, and this country will miss my late father. I can tell you that for free. The 2010 Constitution was not easy, Mr. Speaker. And when I get the opportunity of writing the memoirs of my late father, I'll put the sort of roadblocks that were put in place by cabals of people who did not want the 2010 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, this is yet another opportunity to face the cabals and say no to those people who look at every good initiative as a political moment. Mr. Speaker, why do you think, and I shared a lot of things with my late father, why do you think that there were people who were so strongly opposed, and now I'm speaking to senators, to the 2010 Constitution? Because other than the Bill of Rights, the 2010 Constitution changed the way Kenya is governed by introducing county governments, dispersal of power and resources. They knew the minute we are not kneeling in State House or someplace, push a man. It's called dispersal of power. That's why they were opposing. And what did they do? They put in 15% to go to counties. And you must follow and listen to the people who negotiated for this Constitution. First, the proposal was to have 14 counties. They thought, no, don't make them 14. Make them 47, but give them 15% so that they fail. That was the idea. Now, my dear colleagues and senators, somebody has collected signatures for us. Somebody has gone out of their way and promoted this Constitution and have now proposed 35%. Now, unless you're bewitched, how can you refuse something like that? unless you are not in this country. By the way, and I'm going to say this loudly, the increase to 35% in strict terms does not require a referendum. It's a parliamentary initiative. But all of you know that our noisy neighbors across will not allow any amendment by 2/3 from this house. We have something to take home. I'm talking about Senator Kihika, Senator Zawadi, Senator Kiprotich, Samson, Cherargei. You have something to take to Nandi. 35%. That person who spoke about constituencies, unless you want to become an MP, what is the big deal? Senator Kajwang is right. Why are we so flabbergasted by constituencies, yet you want to become a governor? Senator Kihika wants to become a governor. She doesn't want to become an MP. You want 35%. Please, let's just wake up. 2, Senator Kihika knows. Senator Murkomen knows. Senator Wako is here. Senator Kavindu is here. Senator Haji is here. We couldn't get anything. And we all presented and did all our English. They ignored us completely. Those of you who were with us in Naivasha, some of you were locked out. Let me just tell you what happened. It took one member of parliament, National Assembly, to make so much noise and create a rowdy scene in front of the president and the former prime minister to insist that CDF becomes constitutional. It's now in the constitution. And you cannot get even a simple thing. But when God is so graceful to you and gives you 35% to go to counties, a ward development fund, you are chasing a bush and forgetting about the forest. That's the problem about this Senate. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we wanted an upper chamber. We made a presentation. We explained ourselves. And this chamber has got senior lawyers. We explained why, if you put government in National Assembly, you've got to have some element of climate control in the Senate. They refused. Instead, and I'm going to point to a few weak clauses in this, and I'm telling you, and I want to tell the principals, there are people even within the handshake who are responsible for creating this mess and the anomalies in this draft. They are the ones. The sabotage is within you. Small little typographical errors, even a student, first-year student would not do. How did we end up with typographical errors in a document that has come from the highest possible place? It's an embarrassment. Now, let me point out to 3. What would appear? You have mentioned about judges. I had the pleasure of representing 2 judges who were removed by the then Justice Minister Kiraito Murungi in collaboration with the late Justice Gisheru in something they called radical surgery, where the surgeon forgot about his patient. Morticians. What was then, according to NAC, a way of getting rid of Kanu judges. And I represented them. And let me tell you, that was the beginning of causing mayhem in this country. Now, the person who included clause 43, in my view, is an amateur student of drafting. Because Article 168 of the Constitution on the question of removal of judges is a chapter on its own. And that chapter talks about how you suspend a judge. Now, the judge can only be suspended on the recommendation of JSC by the president. And then the president appoints a tribunal. Now, this poor draftsperson, a person who doesn't even qualify to be my pupil at Kilonzo and Company Advocates, puts a clause to suspend a judge through JSC without any recourse and without any policy, without anything, and without a right of hearing. Poor draftsmanship. Can that be enough for us to nullify this draft? The answer is no, because you cannot implement it. And if you think you're going to remove Mwilu, Justice Mwilu, by this clause, forget it. It will not happen. The second one. This chamber spent a lot of time amending, doing what we call the third generation formula. And that jurisdiction, my dear colleagues, is a special jurisdiction, what we call jurisdiction sui generis, under Article 217. I know where Senator Kihika stood, and I know where Senator Cherargei stood. But in the end, we made a resolution for 5 years. Now, when you amend Article 203 to include per capita as a method of dividing revenue, and you make it a constitutional issue, you have to be an amateur. Because two things. One, there's no transition for that per capita to become revenue third generation. That's one. Two, you cannot amend it unless you get 42 senators, which is not going to happen. If BBI passes and we are 94 here, it will become even more difficult. So what was the purpose? I think that person thought by making that amendment, he's going to make a few of his tribal people happy. It cannot happen. The Commission of Revenue Authority, who has a mandate of dividing revenue, told us that it is, in fact, they considered the question of per capita and thought you cannot introduce per capita for counties if you cannot introduce it for national. It's discriminatory. It's unconstitutional. You are not building bridges. You are digging holes for counties, Lamu, Tana River, Isiolo. What makes you think they are not Kenyans? It's an anathema. The schedule. Now, the schedule on the constituencies, ladies and gentlemen, my dear colleagues, whether you don't like it or you like it, strictly speaking, if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it is a duck. This one is a duck, unconstitutional. And let me explain. Now, a person who is aggrieved under the 89 is supposed to go to court and say, why did you set up a constituency in Naivasha where Senator Kihika comes from without consulting me? That's what the Constitution says. Now, with this schedule, you can't do anything. There's nothing you can do with it. IEBC can't follow it because you can't stop them from doing public participation. You can't go to court and challenge it because it amounts to nothing. This person, because it was not there in the previous BBI too, this person just created something that will just cause problems for nothing. We have a window of opportunity. Unlike the rest, I think that IEBC can be given an opportunity to go around and collect views of Kenyans, which views can be challenged in court under Article 89. Because the 70, we have said, is constitutional. The schedule is unconstitutional because we don't know what to do with it. And in my view, and I'm going to say this because I'm on oath, those of you who need one, Kitui, Nyamira, Kisi, can find your method in the 70 to negotiate. Because this constitution is about negotiation. We have failed as a Senate because we didn't negotiate. Go and negotiate again. Let's get within the 70 how we can move this country together. That's my view. Can you amend this document? This is what I have said. You can't. You cannot. And I'm saying so because I am not only a good lawyer, but I also teach law. I have students. I can't stand there and lie. Because what am I going to say tomorrow when I sit with them in my office? The courts have got this famous phrase. They say, if Parliament intended that they could amend a popular initiative, nothing would have been easier than for Parliament to have said so. And let me tell you something that I've not heard being mentioned here. And I asked that question. What was the intention of the committee of experts in having this clause? I can tell you. Mr. Speaker, the harmonized draft before 2010 Constitution had a method of entry of Parliament in the popular initiative. They removed it. And you should look at our report. Members of the Senate, read the report of the committee. The committee of experts removed that because they didn't want Parliament to interfere with the will of the people. That was it. Now, if you don't like it, then blame the people who passed the Constitution in 2010. Don't blame anybody else. Now, I've waited for a senator to say that you can amend a constitutional amendment even under 256. Can you? No. You can't. Even in a parliamentary initiative, once it is published, you cannot amend. I've told this to my brother, Senator Wambua, who has a constitutional amendment bill to increase the number of counties. Don't make a mistake, because if it is published, you will not amend it. I said this because, and I must disclose, Senator, myself, Orengo, Wetangula were invited to make comments at the highest possible level on BBI2 before 3. What was my comment? I said, do not publish this document without talking to experts and these people here who are parliamentarians, because the minute you publish it, you will not amend it. I'm not going to change course, because to make you guys feel happy, no, you can't amend. That's it. This is my proposal, Mr. Speaker. When we pass bills, Mr. Speaker, we subject every clause to a vote. We subject the schedule to a vote, the title to a vote, call the vote. If you don't like the 35, let the people that elected you here, you don't like the 35. You can refuse the others. But let's vote clause by clause. We might not amend this document, but we will have made our point. In lawmaking, the notes of parliament, the side notes, become a question that can be used in future for thinking, what was parliament intending? That is what I checked in Article 257. It was not intended that we would make an entry point as parliament in 257. That's it. If we don't like it, we amend it. As I conclude, I can see my time has run out, and I've got a lot to say. This is what George Washington said, the first president. If in the opinion of the people the distribution of the constitutional powers be in any particular wrong, let it be corrected by an amendment in the way the Constitution designates. But let there be no change by usurpation. Do not touch a document by popular initiative. That is usurpation. Do not take away the power of IEBC. That is usurpation. So what is my conclusion? I'd rather take the good things and deal with the bad ones, which I have mentioned. And I looked for a person who would help me. And I found a gentleman called Benjamin Franklin, before passing of the American Constitution, said this: "Thus I consent, sir, to this Constitution, because I expect no better, and because I am not sure it is not the best. The opinion I have had of its errors, I sacrifice for the public good." As Senator of Makueni, I sacrifice 35% for the errors. I sacrifice public good. Please add me one more minute.
Dakika moja tafadhali.
2007 was a bad year. Let's not take away the jurisdiction of our institutions. People went to the streets because they didn't trust the judiciary. We cannot, what I call, gang rape the judiciary. We cannot gang rape IEBC in the guise of popular initiative. It is wrong. Mr. Speaker, and I said this, if you give me another 30 seconds, and I said this to the head of state, and I'm going to say it on record. I told him, your legacy will not be Big Four. Your legacy will not be BBI. Your legacy will be to live a peaceful country. And if this document can give us a peaceful election, so be it. As they say, surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our life, and we shall live in the house of the Lord forever. I support.
Asante sana mratibu wa walio wachache. Nafikiri